What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today's video we're going to be talking about the 2005 to 2009, also include the 2010 V6, the driving impressions, kind of what it feels like. Now let me start off by saying in this video that I'm sorry that I missed Monday's upload, guys. This month, or actually tomorrow, we're closing on our house, so it's been a little bit of a hectic week, but let's get right into this video. Another thing, because we're closing tomorrow, more mods are gonna be able to come on the way because I had to save a lot of money, because if you've ever bought a house, you know it is not cheap. But got some cool stuff in the cart, so once tomorrow's over, we're gonna click purchase on that, and we got some new goodies coming for it. But into today's topic, which is the driving impressions. Now, first and foremost, fair warning, this car is not stock in terms of the suspension, so it is on the SR lowering, or SR Performance lowering springs. So that does change a little bit. Now, I don't think it's going to be a huge difference compared to stock. Honestly, the only difference is that it drives a little bit more firm. Some of the benefits to having the lowering springs is that they're typically a little bit of a stiffer spring rate. So when you brake in these cars on a factory suspension, you're going to notice that the front end kind of like nosedives. So once you do the lowering springs, it removes that, which is nice because it feels like it brakes better, if that makes any sense. It's definitely more confidence inspiring. Steering. So obviously this is kind of like a tricky topic because it's a personal debate. I think the steering is pretty nice. Now, this is not particularly a car I'd recommend going up in the canyons and carving through there, but for a daily driver and some back road fun, it's definitely good enough. It is a lighter feeling steering wheel. You don't get a ton of feedback. Now, another thing that I love about this is the steering wheel. I feel like it's the perfect thickness. It's not too thick. That's what she said. It's not too thick. It's not too thin. It has a nice feel. Another thing that I like, this car is on 20-inch wheels, so it is not on the factory 16s or 17s. So with that, you have a much thinner or lower profile tire, so I do get a lot more road noise and road feel, but I'm a fan of that. I like being more connected with the road. Another thing that I should mention is it is an automatic, so it is slightly different there. When you're banging gears and whatnot, you have more control. So with the automatic, you're kind of at its mercy on what it wants to do. Road behaviors, it's very, very smooth. Obviously it goes straight. This road has a little bit of a bend, but you guys can see she goes nice and straight. There's not too much road noise. Obviously, if you have some real meaty tires, like on my Cobra, I have some 15s, and you hear those things go wah, 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 wah. But this does not have that issue. Another nice thing about this car is that it kind of flies under the radar besides the giant hood. Now, I don't know if that really falls under driving impressions, but because it's driving, I feel like it does kind of, it becomes part of that bundle. These cars are pretty popular, so you do somewhat fly under the radar unless you do the biggest hood you could possibly get, which is the Cervini 4-inch hood. Braking wise, this car has totally factory brakes. I have the stock pads and rotors, or like the OEM ones, they were replaced. Braking, not great, but not bad. I would say it's very on par for an 05. Now, some of the newer cars are definitely a little bit more touchy, like you could feel more of an immediate grab. Now, I know you could do like the stainless steel brake line upgrades. You can do drilled and slotted rotors. You can do the upgraded. I know some people do like the GT500. They'll do like the Brembo upgrade on these. That's like $600 to $1,000. For me, that's not worth it, just because I do not track this car. I do not road course it. Now, another thing about this car, in terms of like cornering, I will note that there is a little bit of body roll. Doing the lowering springs does help a lot. When you do the lowering springs, you're going to want to do the adjustable pan hard bar. That really stiffened up the rear end and made it feel nice. So when you're going around a corner now, you have much more confidence that it's not going to feel like it's rolling. I don't know if you guys can feel that right there. Ooh, someone's having a bad day. It's definitely, you get that feedback. You guys can probably see my head going someone's gonna clip that, but no, it's not too firm where it's jarring, but it's enough where you're like, all right, you know, if you just ran over something that you probably shouldn't have. I feel like I just messed up the camera angle. I'm all over the place here. Other things, side note, I always turn the traction control off, not because I send it, But because this has one of those traction control systems, which I don't know if they're all like this in all cars, but if you start to break traction, like today in the rain, if I give it too much gas, it'll do it. It cuts all power. It's not like a gradual reduction. It just says, haha, buddy, you're going nowhere. And it just stops it. So especially in the snow, if you guys drive this in the winter, couple things there. So we can actually transition to that in a moment, but you don't really want to have that happen. So I always turn it off just because I don't see the point. It does not have a limited slip diff. So your back passenger wheel, that's the only one that gets any power. So your driver's side left or back left, that thing's just gonna spin with the road. So if you get that back one stuck, you're in trouble. That's the only thing that I don't like about this car in winter. Definitely throw some weight in the back and you're gonna be okay. But in the summer months, or really as long as there's no huge snowstorm, you're gonna be all right. Drivability wise, visibility, that's a big one. So if you've never been in an S197, a lot of people, you see these little rear windows, hopefully you guys can see it on the camera. They call them like the quarter windows or whatever. They're okay. They do give you some visibility, but quite honestly, it's not enough because you have to be like a contortionist to try to see out of them. The mirrors are pretty good because they're like elongated. You do get pretty solid visibility there. Back windows, totally fine. This car has the GT500 spoiler, so I don't know if you guys can see that. Hopefully you're not just seeing my big ugly mug right now. But that takes up a little bit of room, but it does not obstruct it enough to really be a nuisance. Other things, driving impressions, exhaust. Guys, I promise you, if you have one of these cars and it has a stock exhaust, do yourself a favor. Please change it up. Now, I would not recommend doing the muffler delete. I mean, can you? Yes, but I feel like you're gonna get some drone because with the over axle pipes, with the way this exhaust setup is set, it's just gonna blast it off the ground. You're gonna get a ton of vibrations and drone. So on that topic, vibrations. So for those that don't know, under that whole, like, what's it called, Takata, whatever the whole airbag system was, Ford made it pretty much mandatory, and they actually had people going to like people's houses and like servicing and redoing the airbags. Now this interior has aged well, but you get, I mean, it's plastic. Like there's no lack of plastic whatsoever. So if you're not listening to music, you're gonna hear little creaks and rattles and such. And I noticed it got way worse when they replaced this airbag. So just an FYI, like, I don't know, you guys probably can't see that, but it moves. Whoever did it sucked. They shouldn't have done it. But yeah, you'll get some creaks and cracks and rattles and whatnot. The craziest is in the winters, man. If you have the heat on, I'm always afraid that this thing's just gonna, all of a sudden, I'm just gonna see a huge crack come across it, because when you're doing the defroster, I mean, it makes a ton of noises. But back to the exhaust, I recommend what I have on my car, and I have several videos on the channel with it. The SLP Powerflow exhaust, it does not break the bank. I think it's around $250 to $300. I bought it several years ago when I first bought the car, so I don't want to quote you guys wrong there. But definitely look into that. It's a nice deep tone. It's throaty. It's not super loud. It's not super raspy. But once you get on it, like honestly, between 2,500 to 3,000 RPMs, you get a nice sound to it, and definitely it could get some attention. So highly recommend that. Or if you have the funds, definitely go to like a true dual setup. I think that's more aesthetically pleasing, and I do plan on doing that. What else? Driving impressions, I don't know how much gas mileage plays into that, but right now this car averages about 15 miles per gallon, which I don't understand because I drive it like a child. Or I guess I drive it like an elderly person, not a child. Never beat on it. So yeah, that's kind of stinky, because you would think with a V6 and you baby it, you would get better gas mileage, but it is what it is. Back to the steering, I don't know if you guys noticed, I never really ever have to go more than like half a turn unless I'm hitting like a huge like 90-degree right turn. Just thought this guy was staring at me. Yeah, so steering is very good. Now eventually I would like to do coilovers. I think this would help a lot with the car. I mean, look at this, guys. I mean, this is an okay little turn, and I'm putting very little input. That just shows how light it is. I mean, literally 2 fingers. That's all you need. You guys probably see me driving like this with my pinky on the side, just because it just, I don't know why I do that. It always kind of trips me out when I go back and edit them. What else? So trans, let's get into that one. So the transmission, this is I think the 5R55, or I think there's like a 5R55S. I do not like this transmission. I'll be completely transparent there. This thing, I don't know if it's just me, but when it's cold, like the second to third gear shift, dude, this thing bucks like a horse sometimes. Now, once it gets warmed up, it really doesn't happen. Now, I don't know if it's something like this car, as far as I'm aware, was never tuned. So there's no like trans shift firmness thing that was done to it. And then sometimes it just doesn't do it at all. So I don't quite know that, but it is a 5-speed. This, I don't know the gearing. I mean, it's got to be like a 273 gear, just because these gears are super, super long, or maybe it's like a 3, I don't think it's a 331, but it's great on the highway. You could be cruising at like 75, 80 with pretty low RPMs, right around like 21, 2200. So it's a good cruiser, but it definitely, for like when you're fully in the throttle, it shifts okay. It's not the fastest thing in the world, but it's definitely not like super slow. Now, if like right now, if I were to go pedal to the floor, it takes about 2 seconds for the car to be like, yo, we gotta go. And it doesn't ever really go. Not this particular car. I'm sure if you guys have bolt-ons too and all that fun stuff, it have a little bit more scoot to her. But yeah, so that's my opinion on this trans. Also, another thing is like putting it in reverse. A lot of times it just takes like 2 seconds. I don't know if it has to do with like the diff or what's going on there, but you'll put it in reverse and you have to wait for it. Because if you don't and you let your foot off the brake, you just go boosh, and it's just kind of like very jolting, or whatever the word is. I'm having a brain fart. But other than that, I mean, it's held up well. Fun little pro tip, or not pro tip, but if you guys, there's a little button here on the right side, you guys can't see it, but you click it. When I bought the car, the previous owner was like, yeah, click that to go faster. And I always thought it was nitrous. I don't know why. That was before I really knew anything about cars. And so finally, after a year, I click the button and it just turns off the overdrive. So instead of going into 5th gear, you stay in 4th. So if you guys are going like 55, 60 and you have it like that, you're gonna have definitely more throttle response, just because you're a little bit higher in the RPM, so you're not bogged down. So for those that don't know, little tip there. It definitely makes the car seem a little bit more fun. Granted, you are going to sacrifice some miles per gallon there, which, let's face it, if you're driving a Mustang, doesn't matter what it is, you're really not buying it for the fuel economy. You're buying it because it's something you enjoy. So yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Hopefully you found this somewhat informative. If you're in the market for one of these cars, I do recommend it. It's fun. Go for a test drive. It's not going to be a go-kart, but it's not going to be, you know, like a grocery getter. It's a really nice balance of a daily driver that you can still go have fun with. But do not take it to the canyons, because you're probably going to regret that, I feel like, unless you have your suspension dialed in. But nonetheless, guys, I appreciate all of you guys watching this video. Friday's upload is going to be the Cobra, and then hopefully the parts should start coming in and we could do some install videos and lots of cool other stuff. So I appreciate all of y'all, and I will catch you in the next upload. Later, guys.